Welcome to the Seahawkers podcast with your hosts, Adam Emmert.
This whole thing is setting up perfect for the demise of the Los Angeles Rams.
And Brandon Schultz.
So what I'm hearing from both you guys, Sean McVay really likes tight ends.
Go Hawks!
This is episode 207 of the Seahawkers podcast. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers. Joining me, my good buddy and Montana Seahawker, Adam Emmert.
I am not the only one joining us today, Brandon. We have two of our favorite fellow podcasters, even if they root for one of the shittiest teams in the NFL. James and Bear from the Rams podcast to join us today.
Hey, guys. How's it going? Thanks for having us on.
Man, I heard that episode launch at the beginning, 200 and something. That's some episode goals right there as podcasters. Congratulations. It's good stuff.
Well, you know, when you start a podcast and your team goes to the Super Bowl that very first year, you feel like you have something to do with it. And so then you just keep going, thinking that if you stop, then maybe your team stops having success. And I don't know what that means now that we missed the playoffs last year. Kind of fluky, maybe, because we actually did beat you guys in Los Angeles last year. So I kind of feel like we have to keep this going.
Well, that's a kind of an opposite story for us. The year we started our podcast, LA's first year, the Rams' first year back in LA, they were one of the worst teams in the NFL. So kind of opposite of you guys. And we've kind of taken the reciprocal approach. Yeah, last year, I'd have to say we had a pretty braggable year. So things are starting to go our way, too.
But here's the thing, James. The year you guys started, you fired Jeff Fisher. So I kind of feel like that's equivalent to winning the Super Bowl for a Rams fan.
It really was. I mean, I don't know one Rams fan who likes Jeff Fisher. It's just a name. We don't even talk about that name anymore. We might even bleep this out of the episode because it's a taboo subject for us Rams fans.
Well, it's exciting having you guys on because we love continuing this Know Your Rivals segment that we've done. What, this is our third year doing it? Fourth?
Gosh,
something
yeah,
like that?
Third or fourth. Yeah, we've been keeping this going.
Well, I think we've recorded 4 podcasts together, but it's our third actual year.
Well, and we actually had some dudes from the St. Louis Rams podcast on before we started talking to you guys too. But you know, when they moved, I think they moved on to a different team.
Hey, I have to say we've experienced that. I mean, growing up in Seattle, actually, when we lost the Supersonics, I never became a fan of OKC, and still to this day, sort of hate that team. So I sort of understand. I was a huge Supersonics fan growing up.
You know, it's funny. I watched a video just the other day about a little bit more the backstory of the Sonics leaving and just exactly how snaky Clay Bennett is. And that's got to be tough to swallow still these days. I was never a huge Sonics fan, but I'd love to see the Sonics come back. There's no doubt about it. But let's get to the Rams a little bit, guys. I mean, that's something that I know is a big topic of conversation in the media this year. Now that you guys have already won the Super Bowl by, basically trying to buy one, everybody's media darling this year. And so that's got to feel pretty good. I mean, I imagine you guys have a little swagger going for you right now.
We absolutely do. We're looking forward to training camp starting up soon. We made so many amazing moves in the offseason. We can get into those as well. But yeah, we're definitely being talked about. When we first started this podcast, like we were just saying, the Rams just didn't get any national respect, and it just wasn't a team anybody talked about seriously. And now we're one of those teams that, people are mentioning in the news and very anxious to see how we're going to be able to do this year.
Yeah, as James kind of mentioned there, coming from where we started to this offseason where a lot of these additions kind of came even before the league year officially started. So it was a fun couple weeks in the offseason here for out in LA watching a lot of these transactions happen. And the last couple weeks / month has almost been a little bit of a bore fest as, we're kind of used to adding a Pro Bowler every week or so. So we got to get to the season and kind of get these guys out on the field. But it's been pretty fun being a Rams fan the last, few months.
You guys did have some big additions. I think the one that is probably the most scary for Seahawks fans, and we can start off there, Ndamukong Suh added to the defensive line along with Aaron Donald. I guess maybe we can just hope as Seahawks fans that Aaron Donald decides to sit out the season until he gets paid. And then all we have to do is worry about Russell Wilson getting stepped on again by Ndamukong Suh, like happened, 2 years ago against the Dolphins.
Yeah, I like to think of Ndamukong Suh as almost the cherry on top of the offseason. We went out and did our 2 trades for Talib and Peters to really kind of solidify the corner position after we kind of let Tremaine Johnson seek work elsewhere and not franchise tag him again for an ungodly amount of money. And then getting, like we just mentioned, Ndamukong Suh in to be right next to AD. And don't hold your breath too much on him holding out. I think we're going to get this thing wrapped up before training camp comes. A lot of the news coming out from, the front office is that they're communicating this year compared to where they were at last year. Big steps ahead. So I think we're going to get that figured out. We're going to get him to a long-term deal. He's going to see the new stadium, and he's going to see Russell Wilson on his back, hopefully a lot. With Ndamukong Suh up on that front line, it's going to be tough to figure out who you're going to block when both those guys can almost take on, a double team by themselves. So very excited about what we brought in this offseason to add to, on the other side of the ball, one of the best offenses in the league.
Well, I'm actually extremely excited for you guys to sign Aaron Donald to some monster mega contract, because every team that signs a defensive tackle to a massive deal does amazing. Just ask the Dolphins and the Texans and
Tampa Bay Bucks.
Yeah. I think it's going to be great for you guys. I like the history.
Well, talking about Russell Wilson moving around back there, and if he happens to not get sacked every play because of Suh and Aaron Donald, one of my favorite additions, Marcus Peters, you got to watch out for this guy, because since he's entered the NFL in 2015, he has the most interceptions. No other player has more than him. He's at 19 right now and 55 passes defended. So if by chance Russell Wilson is able to get away, which he is quite the scrambler, and yes, that is sort of scary, but we're going to be attacking him from both sides right now of the line. And if he throws up the ball, there's a very good chance we're just going to catch it anyway from our defense. So, things are looking good on the defensive side of the ball.
And quickly to add to that, one of the things I loved hearing these guys in OTAs kind of talk about how they love Wade Phillips' defense because it allows them to be risk takers, and he puts them in positions to make plays. And those two guys, if you've followed their careers, love going out and taking those risks and going for the interception. So it fits perfectly into that defense. And as James mentioned, our big thing is going to be putting a lot of pressure on the quarterback, whether it's Russell Wilson or anybody else in the league. And if they feel pressure to kind of make that throw, we got guys back there. Not only the two we just mentioned, but John Johnson III is a second-year player, had a great first year, and then LaMarcus Joyner, guy that we franchise tagged that everyone's really excited about here in LA. And that's not counting a couple of the guys that are added depth. Nickel Rolby Coleman, who had a great year, went healthy last year for us. So that secondary is just as scary as that front line, which is exciting for this defense. Wade Phillips just had to wait that extra year while we spent all of our time and focus on offense last year. And they turned around and gave him a bunch of love to deal with. So, peeking over there at the Seahawks and what they did not only in the offseason but through the draft, one of their big issues, which I thought, I'd love to hear you guys take on it, was that offensive line to help them protect against these guys that we've added, on our defense. But it doesn't seem that way, that we didn't really see a lot of additions in the offensive line. Is that nerve-wracking going forward, or do they have a better plan? Well, I know they got a new offensive line coach, but what's going on with that?
I was going to say, first off, ding dong, the Wicked Witch is dead. Tom Cable is freaking gone. Okay? We're not doing this defensive lineman playing offensive lineman crap anymore. We're actually going to trot out a bunch of dudes that were first and second round picks, whether that's Fluker, Dwayne Brown, Justin Britt, Ifedi, or Posick. And then also, too, you talked a little bit about the Rams players and OTAs talking about how much they enjoyed Wade Phillips' scheme because it fit their skill set. This is much the difference or the same thing as bringing in Mike Solari for the offensive line coach. He's getting rid of the majority of that zone blocking crap, a lot more man-to-man blocks, a lot more power schemes, and that's going to fit what many of our offensive linemen do best, whether that's DJ Fluker or hopefully make a big improvement for Jermaine Ifedi. So it's a little bit of bringing in one, quality offensive lineman to play at guard, banking on your rookie making that second-year leap in Posick, and then hoping a little bit for Ifedi to be the player that you drafted him to be in the first round. But with all that said, it pissed me off like nobody's business that they drafted Penny in the first round instead of, getting another body on the offensive line. But we'll see.
When I saw that first pick, I mean, obviously a guy that's got some talent, but there was questions of, was he even the best running back at the time? And was he the best, fit for your team at the time? So sounds like, Adam, you weren't too thrilled with it. I mean, I think you got a little bit of a talented guy there, but was that the right pick? Maybe, maybe not. Who was there that you would have, rather had?
Well, Bear, here, let me jump in, Bear, because you bring up the idea of there were a lot of other backs, but the Seahawks were the second team to take a running back off the board. So no matter what we think, we can be confident knowing that of all the running backs not named Saquon Barkley, the Seahawks got their guy. Had they waited until a couple other guys came off the board, then you'd have that question constantly, did they want Nick Chubb? Did they want Darius Geis? No. They wanted Rashad Penny, and they went out and got him ahead of every other back that was picked. And
this is somewhere where Brandon and I have disagreed strongly, because I just, watching the tape of Penny play, he is not that thumping, bruising back that's going to break a lot of tackles. I know that he led the league in, yards after contact last year, right? But if you look at that, a lot of it was like a broken shoestring tackle that he took for 50 yards. And so, just kind of piled up. You didn't see him like busting it in there and taking a 2-yard gain and making it a 4-yard gain and falling forward. That's not his game. He's more of a scat back than he is a power back. And that's the thing that frustrated me the most with that pick, because then you looked at Geis, you looked at some of the other backs, Chubb, and I mean, those were more power backs, and I would have much rather have seen that.
And Russell Wilson's going, hey, I thought I was your running back. What's going on here?
Right.
Well, he had most of our rushing touchdowns last year. So that's definitely a place where the Seahawks have to improve, is in their run game, especially losing Jimmy Graham and, the touchdown machine that he was inside the red zone. Now, we didn't get much out of him outside the red zone, but I think we're going to have to count on our run game now. And one of the guys that we haven't talked about, Chris Carson, also coming back. And when you talk about guys who are thumpers, that was a guy that through the first 4 games of the season until he got hurt, he kind of had that bruising style of running back that Adam really does like. But let's get more into the Rams defense. Now, you guys were all fired up about the defensive line and all about your secondary. I didn't hear you, so much confidence and excitement around the linebacking core. What's going on there?
Hey, you guys should speak. You have a great linebacker situation right now with Wagner and Wright. It's pretty scary, actually, going to be facing those guys. But yeah, I mean, that's one thing that Rams Nation was a little questionable about in the draft. We didn't really address it. Of course, we got Kaiser there, but I don't know if he's really going to be a solution or if he's even going to start. But yeah, there's one. We got that little center area on the defensive side of the ball. That's kind of a weakness. And if you happen to get past our line and you're not tossing it and seeing a threat from our cornerbacks, and we're still in a situation where it's kind of questionable, and I think a lot of Rams fans are looking to see who's going to be able to fill those spots. I don't know what Bear thinks about that situation.
Yeah, a couple times I've told James basically that they could line me and James up at the middle linebacker and we can still win 11 ball games with the way the rest of the team is built out there. And the thing is, there's also a lot of young talent. Sam Ebelcom, who was on the team last year, showed a lot of growth when Ogletree was out. He had mentioned, one of the guys that we had gotten in Kaiser, Obo Okoronkwo, which I've practiced that name about 9 times.
Hey, you nailed it.
So that I got it out without having to edit through. Man, it made me really proud right there. He's a little banged up right now, but we love him. He was a 5th-round pick out of Oklahoma. We were shocked that we got him that late. People were kind of calling for him to be picked in that 3rd, 4th round area. And then Corey Littleton, another guy that got some playing time last year, really showed out in special teams and showed that he could handle the defense when he was given the opportunity. And then we're going to kind of really lean on Mark Barron being the guy, the veteran, to kind of hold that crew together. So I'm curious. This is going to be a fun position to kind of watch through camp, because like we mentioned in a lot of the other positions, there's not a lot of camp battles going on at Rams camp. This is definitely going to be one that has a lot of people's attention. And like James said, we're going to have to lean on the other strengths that we have. That line trying to get through there. Run defense was a big problem for us last year. I think that was one of the reasons we brought Ndamukong in to kind of hopefully help on that front line. But I'm excited about these young guys. You always hear the big name guys that got the big contracts. So you just kind of assume that that's what you have to lean on. But these young guys coming up that don't have a big name for themselves have an opportunity. Bryce Hagger's another one of those guys that, was on the team last year that's going to get some more reps. So curious to see how we're going to fill it. But from the start, it kind of sounds like, Corey Littleton, Bryce Hagger, and Ndamukong are going to be those guys that we kind of look to kind of rotate in there. And then not to forget, I know we're going back to the front of the line, but Michael Brockers and Dominic Easley are two guys that kind of get overlooked on, with that front line. So really excited. I know that's our area of, quote unquote weakness, but I'm looking forward to seeing those young guys get an opportunity and kind of proving themselves in this league. Cause you got to step up right away, fill that role, or else they'll be exposed pretty quick.
Yeah, and Corey Littleton, Bear mentioned, really kind of stepped it up when he was playing last year. Pretty excited to see what he's going to be able to bring to the table this year. And Mark Barron, heavy hitter. He's one of my favorite linebackers on the defense. And right now, we're in a situation where the moves we made in the offseason, we trust in Wade Phillips. Wade is, has been in the NFL a long time. And even though we may seem weak at that position right now, we trust in Wade, and we know that he's going to be able to do something amazing back there with the linebacker core.
So let's move over to the offensive side of the ball for you guys a little bit. Not a ton of changes, but Tavon Austin gone finally. I'm sure you guys are probably excited about that.
Yeah.
And then you bring in Brandin Cooks, a guy who's now been dumped by two teams in his prime. What are your thoughts on that? Is this a guy who has a case of being a knucklehead, or is it just that he's not a good fit on these other teams? Like, how is it that a guy this talented has been given up on now twice?
I think Belichick did Cooks a favor here. I mean, we've been watching some of the OTA footage, and Sean McVay and Jared Goff are so jacked about how fast Cooks is. He's already, fit in perfectly with the chemistry of this offense. Goff loves hitting him with the deep ball. I think he's going to fit very well here, and I'm very much looking forward to what Cooks is going to bring to the table.
Yeah, and far from a knucklehead, because the craziest thing about this guy, and you mentioned him getting, traded twice. He's one of the only people that probably been drafted in the first round 3 times with, being drafted physically in the first round, then traded twice for first round value. But
Sam Bradford.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sam Bradford immediately came to mind.
Yeah. Healthy first round value.
Oh, right.
But yeah. But I don't get it. I'm not sure really what is the case on why he's being moved. But if you kind of watch some of the, behind the scenes stuff on him, or kind of hear the guy talk, I mean, he's total opposite of that. And he's a great teammate. And I think we're really excited about him here in LA. And as James talked about the chemistry, I love how far, if you think about it, last year, we hadn't even had Sammy Watkins on our roster yet. So we got to bring him in late in camp, and there was always those talks about he never really connected with Goff, and he had 8 touchdowns, but I think 6 of them were inside the 5-yard line, kind of like your Jimmy Graham, red zone threat. Didn't do much else after that. So I think he's going to fit better into this offense this year. And like you said, not much turnaround, so we don't expect. We were first last year in the league, and it's a high hope to want to get that again, go 1-1 back-to-back, but I don't expect us to drop far off of what we did last year, because the rest of the offense is exactly the same. So adding in Brandin Cooks as a number 1 who's got great speed, better route runner than Sammy Watkins, and from the sounds of it and the looks of it, already has a little bit better chemistry with Goff, and even Goff kind of transitioning into this second year fully into Sean McVay's offense and kind of getting better, being able to manage that offense a little bit more on his own, and being able to throw the deep ball a little bit better. I think we're going to see them stay near the top of the league, probably in top 5 of the offense is kind of my hopes or expectations for them for what they're going to do this coming year.
Is Sean McVay actually going to let Jared Goff play quarterback like a big boy this year and run the line of scrimmage on his own? Or is he going to be doing that hurry up thing and in his ear up until the last second when they turn the headphones off on him?
Hey, we're not breaking any rules here. And, Goff,
I didn't say you broke a rule.
First year with
I just said
Sean
maybe
McVay.
the training wheels
A lot
could
of
come
people
off.
were questioning that over social media, but we're just doing our thing. Goff was his first year last year with McVay. McVay did an amazing job, and that's one of the most common reports we're seeing coming out of camp is Goff's progression and maturity going into this year. He's becoming quite the leader on the offense. And, you talk about, he's had some movement in the coaching situation. We lost our offensive coordinator. We lost our quarterbacks coach, Greg Olson, and we had some moves. We moved our offensive line coach, Aaron Cromer, to be a run game coordinator. Our tight ends coach, Waldron, is now passing game coordinator. I think that's a brand new title. And assistant wide receivers coach, Zach Taylor, is now the new team's quarterback coach. And Zach Taylor and Goff are getting along great. And I think Goff has matured quite a bit. I don't know if that's going to be called out quite as much this year. McVay kind of giving him orders going up to the line, but I think that's just one of the things people were able to point out last year and try to call out and talk trash about. But every mention of Goff right now and during OTAs is just talking about the maturity and how much he's evolving as a leader on this team.
Yeah, and looking at Jared Goff and what he's done, I mean, he's almost, in a sense, was, a rookie last year in that Ben Simmons style. Even though he played 7 games, 4 of them were with a special teams, bones as his head coach. So he didn't get a lot of fair run that first year, and it seemed really shaken, as you saw. I mean, it was a horrible performance in his first year. A lot of people, labeling a bust. And then to come back in year 2, first year with McVay being able to take those leaps and bounds. So I'm expecting the same thing this year, full offseason with Sean McVay. And like James said, I'm expecting, big steps from year 2 to 3 with Jared Goff.
Adam, it's kind of cute just hearing these guys talk about the Rams and as far as especially like all of the talking points from the coaches. It's like getting it just filtered straight through. Everything's going great. The offseason, everybody's getting along so well. Jared Goff's 5 pounds lighter. He's got so much more zip on the ball than last year. Oh, everything's just going great.
Yeah, I wish we had something to kind of right now. I wish there was something to kind of say like, well, this seems questionable, which, I think was probably our linebacking position. But, we're on that glass half full. If there's a question there, we're going to find an optimist reason on why it could be great. But you're right. It's right now. It feels me and James have talked about this. It's almost kind of hard doing a podcast when you're so positive about everything. Those Jeff Fisher days, it was kind of fun to be able to rant for a little bit. They took Tavon Austin away from us. We can't even, complain about that anymore. I mean, we're really struggling to find somebody to be upset about right now.
Hey, we had a lot of time in the dark as Rams fans, and we're finally adjusting to our new city. We got a new stadium on the way. Things are looking up. We just got nothing but smiles over here.
The stadium's on the way. Now, not to mention the fact that you guys got a little bit of rain once and it delayed it for an entire season. So I guess you'd have that to complain about.
Yeah, that was pretty funny, blaming the weather down here in Southern California, the rain.
Oh, we didn't plan on for we just didn't plan for 3 days of rain in the schedule. Yeah. So that's gonna put us back a whole season.
It caused flooding.
Great weather, you guys.
Well, I mean, if there's some things that you guys should be concerned about, is Todd Gurley's upcoming down year, because every time he has an up year, he has a down year following that. That's the trend so far. It's been up, down, up.
If I could win a jersey on a down year with Todd Gurley, things still found a way to be pretty good that year.
God, well, yeah, that's because you guys have hatchet men that went out there and broke Thomas Rawls' leg. That's what happened.
That's all I needed was one guy to help me out. It didn't have to be my guy. It could have been someone else, but that works.
I will give Jared Goff a little bit of credit, though, this offseason. And we saw him, ranked pretty highly. I think, number 36 in the NFL top 100. So getting the recognition of his peers. But Jared Goff and that video he did for Red Bull, where he went undercover with the Ventura County football team as Dre Fogue, that was good stuff.
That was good stuff. We finally got to see him open up his personality a bit. I don't know if you've seen any of his press conferences early on, but he just, he doesn't say much and wouldn't say he has the most bold personality. But yeah, it was cool to kind of see him take on a character, do some acting. And, Bear and I had a good time with that video. At first, I was thinking, how could you not in Ventura County, which is just basically where they train anyway? How could you not recognize that that's a quarterback of the Los Angeles Rams? But knowing that, that article I wrote today about the Rams being second to last in overall brand, it makes sense that the team that's down the street from where they practice wouldn't even recognize a quarterback. So it was really cool. It was funny. A lot of the fans really enjoyed it. And apparently he's got a Twitter account now, Dre Fogue. So, I wonder if that character is going to continue to roll.
Yeah, I wonder who manages that account.
Burner account these days.
I'm curious about one of your other quarterbacks, because this is a guy that when he came out in the draft, I knew he'd be drafted late, and he got drafted by the Jags, but I thought that he had a shot to be a decent player. How has Brandan Allen looked in camp? Like, have you heard anything about him?
Yeah, as far as the backup quarterbacks, it's going to be interesting. We also we got an undrafted free agent, and his name is slipping me right now, but
Luis Perez.
There it is. Yeah. So, and that kind of goes to the depth with Sean Mannion, who, if you don't know, James was lucky enough to get an autograph in camp last year. He fought through a bunch of 12-year-olds and got a very exciting autograph. But, it's for me, it's really, I don't want to say a non-story, but I kind of feel very comfortable with Mannion. It's funny. It's not too long ago that a lot of people in the LA media were calling for him to be the starter over Jared Goff as that season kind of came around. So that Oregon State connection with Brandin Cooks, I think, one of the reasons they talk about in practice how they get along so well. But, I'm pretty comfortable with Sean Mannion. Again, if you want to bring in some quarterbacks to push, I think everyone should have some motivation as far as, trying to fight for your position, whether it's, second string or third string. I don't see us carrying 3 quarterbacks, so I don't know how long he'll really have a, last onto the Rams roster. But again, another little piece in training camp that'll give, me and James something to kind of talk about when we run out of positive things to talk about. We can talk about our backup quarterback situation and what we're going to do, and how is James going to sell that hat on eBay if he's not on the roster?
Oh man, that hat. So, that hat is basically useless because I got Mannion's autograph and I got Tremaine Johnson's autograph, and now it's basically worthless. I'm not even going to wear it anymore. But a little story on the Sean Mannion situation. Everybody was really talking about him, maybe trying to start at the beginning of last season after Jared Goff's rookie year performance. And it's funny, when I went over to get that autograph, I was just standing there and I said first of all, I had my hat out and he looked around to make sure that there was nobody else that needed an autograph first. I was last on his list. It seemed like he just didn't want to give me an autograph. I was probably 20 years older than anybody else standing around me. But I said, hey, man, maybe you'll be starting this year. And he looked at me like, what are you talking about, old man? It wasn't my most shining moment, but I'm hoping to maybe get some actual starters autographs this year when we go to training camp. But yeah, I'm comfortable with Mannion. The other quarterbacks, we're just building depth back there and going to be developing them. But I honestly hope that Mannion doesn't come in maybe until the last game of the season or something.
Well, let's move to, we talked a little bit about receivers, but let's talk tight ends, because Tyler Higbee has his offseason regimen. Has it included like a lot of lotion to help soften up those stone hands of his?
Oh, man. That is, as we talk about camp battles, that's the other one that you could circle on the radar is, you got Tyler Higbee, who kind of became the man last year after we drafted Gerald Everett in the second round. Sean McVay's first pick as an LA Rams head coach. He thought he was going to involve the tight end position a little bit more. If you look back to his days in Washington, that was a heavy set part of his offense was going through the tight end. He had a couple here, and then we also had Tamarick Hemingway, who tore his ACL, MCL to start training camp last year, actually against the Chargers in a preseason game. He's back healthy. So there's a lot of people in that room as far as who can compete. When asked about it, McVay basically said, the cliche coach answer, and he likes everybody. But Tyler's really improved as far as being a run blocker as well. I think that's going to be maybe his biggest advantage, is that they don't really have to move him in and out, depending on, what they're going to call, if it's a run or a pass, that he can actually stay in there and effectively run the tight end position at any play call. Gerald Everett, we saw glimpses of it last year where he had great hands and, had great speed with it. And then I don't know, he had a couple games where he had some drops. I don't know if he fell out of coach's favor, but we just didn't see him much near the end of the year. And then with Hemingway, we talked about it, him coming back. He's a good-sized guy, like 6'4", 200-something pounds, and, he's good at blocking as well as catching. So it's going to be interesting. But, James, what are your thoughts on our tight end?
The tight end situation, it's funny because we're 5 deep on the depth chart right now. We got 5 tight ends, but I think Hemingway, who we haven't really had the chance to see at all, I think hopefully he's going to have a pretty decent year this year. And then Everett, the structure of our offense currently, especially talking about Todd Gurley and the way he was able to also receive the ball quite a bit last year. He had some pretty good stats as far as receptions and overall yards there, but it just didn't seem like, McVay coming from Washington and utilizing the tight end position really made it happen there. And hopefully this year he'll be able to open up a little bit more. But I'm expecting Everett to really step it up, and Hemingway and Higbee, like Bear said, he's a big dude. He's going to be a great pass blocker. But I think he may fall to maybe second or maybe even third on the depth chart eventually. I don't know if he's a huge favorite in that position, but I expect Everett to continue to grow and have more of a breakout year this year. But it should be exciting to see how McVay is going to mix up this offense. A lot of people really respect the offensive mind of Coach McVay, and you never know what he's going to bring to the table. He's going to adjust depending on every team that we play, and I'm really looking forward to what he's going to be able to do with this position.
So what I'm hearing from both you guys, Sean McVay really likes tight ends.
Yes and no, which is weird. I mean, we've got 3, 4, 5 of them, like James said, but 3, I think, that really have a shot. But last year, we thought he did, and I think really James almost answered it right there with saying Todd Gurley got a lot of those receptions. A lot of that, what we thought where where Jared Goff would kind of dump it across to a tight end or, kind of those little 5-6 yard passes and let them do the work, that all went to Todd Gurley. So, and then the, emergence of Cooper Kupp, who kind of came into the lineup, and we knew he was going to be good, but we didn't expect really the all-out numbers that he put together for us last year, even though they weren't enough numbers. Right,
let's just say losing numbers.
There weren't enough all-purpose numbers.
Yeah. But we'll see if they get back to using the tight end because they're there. We've got a bunch of them, but if you're looking at the stats and how the ball spread around, they're not getting the love that you'd think they would get in a Sean McVay offense.
All right, guys, you look around the league or around the division at all the other teams in the division. Which team is scaring you the most right now? Because everybody in the nation has decided that the Seahawks don't exist anymore. We're terrible. We lost everybody. We can't possibly compete. Jimmy Garoppolo, handsome Jimmy, will probably go undefeated for the rest of his career. Bruce Arians has gone down in Arizona. David Johnson's going to be back. I know they lost everybody else, but they're going to be good because they drafted a rookie who can't play at quarterback and then brought in your guys' old buddy, Sam Bradford, to play quarterback and mentor him for a bit. Which team has really got you guys at least concerned the most?
Well, it's funny. Bear and I were kind of having this conversation earlier via text, and we were just talking about facing the Seahawks and saying, no matter how you feel about them, it's always going to be a good rivalry between us two. But speaking of the overall division, I'm kind of nervous about how the 49ers are going to step up. They got a young offensive-minded coach, Jimmy G's. I think he's going to be a pretty decent quarterback. We saw some good stuff coming out of it next year. I think the 49ers fans are just kind of obnoxiously optimistic at this point, but I see him as a threat, and I see them, probably falling number 2 in division behind the Rams here. But I'd have to point my finger to the 49ers. Wow, you got
the Niners finishing above the Seahawks this year? For real?
I sure do.
So that's cute. That's adorable.
Yeah. So I'll switch gears.
Bear may not agree.
Yeah, I don't. It's close. I think they're going to be the ones that give you guys the biggest push. Hearing you talk about the new offensive line coordinator and what you guys are going to do up front, hopefully, really, I'm banking on that for getting you guys kind of being more balanced in a sense to where Russell Wilson doesn't have to do 95% of everything. I think that was a big weigh on him. Obviously, when we got to the last Rams-Seahawks game, it's almost like your whole team just was out of gas, right? You guys were down 20-something points within the first 5 minutes, it felt like. But in overall, they just looked like ran out of gas at the end of the year. He was doing so much. He was taking so many hits. He had to do everything for the team, even to scrape and claw back into games so many times. And the defense was a little bit banged up throughout the year. But I think you just can't count. Yeah. What I kind of told James in a sense, and it's a stretch, but I said that Russell Wilson kind of reminds me of having this LeBron quality to where it doesn't matter who's around him. He elevates people so far above their game and gives the Seahawks a chance to win every time they step on the field because of him. He's that good. So I expect with kind of, adding additions in the run game, which was Russell Wilson last year, in consistent offensive line play and being healthy, obviously every team's going to be huge. But I think Seahawks are going to use this to kind of put that chip on the shoulder, because they're no dummies. Everyone's hearing what's going on. Everyone's kind of crowning the Niners to, maybe be the next one to take on the Rams. And slowly the Seahawks are getting put closer and closer next to the Cardinals. And that's just got to piss off anybody in the division if you're being put closer to the Cardinals instead of closer to the top of the division. So I think they're going to really use it as motivation and come in as, Pete Carroll's a guy that can coach him up, and, he said it kind of reminded him of his first year when Russell Wilson, took over the team, that young, youthful, no one's kind of giving him a shot. So I think he's really going to play that role the whole year and kind of build that underdog mentality in them. And I think they're going to be the ones that are really going to end up chasing us, because I do have us at the top of the division. You don't, have the number one offense in the league and then stockpile your defense and not think that you're going to go back out and win the division. They're looking at goals further than just winning the division. So I do have the Rams on top. I do have Seahawks second, with Niners being so close, almost a coin flip at times, depending on how health goes and really what Jimmy G is. Because, again, we saw him last year win 5 games in a row at the end of the season when he was playing our backup, our second string defense. And
my boy Mannion.
And Jacksonville, they had a couple of their guys out there, but, I think it was Jalen Ramsey had said the other day he didn't deserve to be in the top 100 because he thinks he's, it was more of a scheme thing more than a performance thing. But we'll see how that all kind of plays out. He's got to play a whole season this year. Can he stay healthy? Can, the team put together an offense and defense that can, put them in the win column? And can they go and win on the road? That's the one thing that Rams did so well last year. I think we had 7 or 8 road victories last year. It was unreal. But you got to go do that in this division. You got to be able to, either sweep teams like the Cardinals or, go win 2 somewhere in the division, or at least split. So, and yeah, Arizona way down there. I'm curious to see what they're going to do at quarterback and how healthy Bradford can be throughout the year, and if we even see the Rook at all. But David Johnson back, that's exciting. But I still think they've got a long way to go. But I think they're going to be a better team than they were last year. I think overall the division as a whole is going to be a lot better. But I still got you guys at number 2.
All right, Adam, well, let's jump in here from our conversation with James and Bear and talk a little bit about our sponsor this week, Hims, a new wellness brand for men. There's some dudes, especially around our age, 66% of men, in fact, lose their hair by age 35. And when you start to notice your hair loss, it's generally too late.
Yeah, you got to get ahead of that if you can. And for example, James and Bear and every Rams fan out there, every male Rams fan could do themselves a favor and just sign up for the Hims products because they're going to need it. They're going to be pulling their hair out all season long. So get ahead of it.
Yeah, because when you're in L.A., those guys are going to be walking around there going, hey, James, Bear, do you have a bald spot developing there? I don't remember you having that before the Rams game on Sunday.
Right, and it's going to be glaring through their visor, through the hole in the top of their hat.
Right.
Yeah.
Their hobo hat. Fortunately, thanks to science, baldness can be optional. Not everybody can afford to go out and get a visor with a man bun attached to it. So if you want to rock real hair on the top of your head, you go to forhims.com and find FDA approved prescription solutions that are backed by science.
Science. And you got to love that, right? I mean, I love it when science can fix problems like that, even if it's for Rams fans.
Forhims.com has even shared real before and after Instagram photos posted by actual clients, and these are awesome. Check out their Instagram. And our listeners right now get a trial month of Hims for just $5 today, right now, while supplies last. See website for full details. This would cost hundreds if you went to the doctor or a pharmacy. Go to forhims.com/hawkers. That's FORHIMS.com/hawkers, HAWKERS, forhims.com/hawkers. Let's get back to our conversation here with James and Bear.
All right, guys. So official record prediction for the Seahawks this year. And then I have a prediction for you guys about your season. And then I think we should come up with another bet because I'm feeling it.
Well, before we get to their prediction, I want to hear from James. Will Cooper Kupp be offensive MVP or entire team MVP?
Or league MVP.
Or league MVP, exactly.
I got to watch my mouth with you, Brandon, on the Cooper Kupp statements, because I like to be bold with him. He went to the same college as me, and he's one of my favorite offensive players. I think he's going to really step it up this year and do some great things for our offense, but he's probably going to be the number 2 receiver overall when it comes to yards. I'm not ready to make any bold predictions about Cooper Kupp. I don't want to jinx anything for my boy. I do have one question for you guys.
Wow, you are down on Cooper Kupp. He will not be the top receiver for the Rams?
I hope Cooper Kupp's arms are insanely long so he can unlodge that knife stuck squarely behind his shoulder blades.
I just hope that his hands get a little more sticky this year. He missed a couple imperative catches last year.
Oh, yeah, we know. Yeah.
It wouldn't have won me the bet, but I just hope that he's work on that. He got some new gloves this year, possibly. But I gotta tell you, that video wasn't easy to make, and I just got to say, I hope that jersey's treating you well.
Dude, I'm wearing it right now.
I was hoping you would be. I do want to ask you guys real quick, just talking to the 49ers, a team we both hate. What's the vibe with Richard Sherman? Is he hated by Seahawks fans, or is it just kind of like a you don't talk about it type of deal? What's going on there?
It really hurts a little bit.
Yeah.
It hurts a little bit. Now, I think, Brandon, we've seen kind of a wide range of reactions from fans, but I think for the most part, and I'll let Brandon kind of chime on this too. I don't hate the guy at all. Like, I hope his team loses every game this year and by blowouts. I hope it's just terrible, but I hope for him as a person, his life continues on very well and his kids are healthy and his wife is good. He's still a good dude. I've met his mom, nice lady. I hope they're all on a personal level fantastic. No hatred in my heart for him whatsoever. If I was him, I totally get it. I'd probably try to go to a division rival too. So it's not a problem for me.
And I think that's what probably stung Seahawks fans the most was just the fact that he had just been cut and immediately goes to the 49ers and signs on with them. He could have gone anywhere else except for the Rams. And probably the Seahawks fans would have said, you know what, I'm still rooting for the guy. But when he goes to San Francisco, it makes it hard to root for. But as he brought us so many great moments as Seahawks fans, I don't have a place to where I could hate the guy for it. Right. Even a little bit of sports hate. I can't do it. He's meant that much to the Seahawks team over the years that now I won't root for him. But I won't root for him to perform poorly.
Yeah, he was pretty legendary on the Seahawks, and it doesn't look like 49ers are going to be in Seattle in looks like December 2nd. So it's going to be a while till the fans get to react. But that's your guys' stadium is so incredibly loud. Are we expecting a lot of boos or
I hope not.
Probably,
I hope not.
But I hope not. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I think it's going to be too hard to resist. He may get some love at the beginning, but then you got to get when it comes game time, they're going to, get back into what they do best and being, the rowdy 12s up there. But it was interesting to me because that article that he put out kind of explaining the situation for me is when I kind of even became more on Richard Sherman's side as far as how the situation unfolded. And then, he was pretty honest about, being able to stick in the division and be able to come up and, kind of stick it to the Seahawks twice a year was kind of part of the motivation, which as, not a former athlete at that level, but understanding kind of how that would be really fun for you to be able to stick in the division and, go and do that. So pretty interesting though, with the whole Richard Sherman stuff, randomly found my way onto I had an Instagram ad that came across. He's still got Seahawks gear available on his website if you guys want to get your last chance at it.
Yeah, no sense, right?
Clearance.
Yeah, I had to unsubscribe from the Gmail newsletter. Couldn't do it anymore. Just couldn't see him in the Niners colors, man. I hated tasting that much throw up in my mouth,
All the Photoshop pictures of him in his 49ers gear. Yeah, there were some Seahawks fans that for just a few days we were hopeful that Michael Crabtree might sign with the Seahawks, and then we could recreate the moment in the end zone where Crabtree actually catches it over the top of Richard Sherman. And
you were the only one hoping for that.
there were a few of us.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I talked to someone through the Locked On podcast network that I also do podcasts with the San Francisco 49ers, and I asked him that same question, but in the flip role, how was San Fran when he came? And he said it was pretty funny how fast, you can go from hating a guy to loving a guy, and especially having Crabtree, formerly in town as well. And they went from just loving that guy even after he left to kind of being like, yeah, we're going to let go loving that guy as much now that we got this guy on our team, and how sports will do that to you. You can be dead passionate about hating somebody, and then they join your team, and you may have to take a second to soak in, but then you're like, all right, I'm going to get with them. And the turnaround, he said, from hating Richard Sherman to now how excited people are, just kind of shows you what sports will do, especially when it comes to, hating and loving people.
I mean, that's what fandom is for sports, right? I mean, there's so many guys where you look at them and, they grind on you and part of it is because of their talent, right? And you think, there's no way I could ever like that guy. And part of it is too, you don't pay attention to all the good stuff a lot of these players do off of the football field. And you're like, oh, wow. So Richard Sherman really does a lot of stuff in the community. And you start to notice those types of things. And it makes you realize, a lot of these guys are just good dudes, but they crush you on game day. And that's a little bit hard to take.
Must be an exercise for you guys, though, in this area, because, I mean, you brought in, a couple of the dirtiest players in the league when it comes to Suh and Aqib Talib and, knucklehead Marcus Peters.
Hissy fits in the end zone, yeah.
Yeah, so you guys kind of have to learn to love some guys that are kind of genuinely hateable.
Yeah, I actually am really enjoying it right now because, this isn't, the nice league. You're not here to make, buddies with other people. And it is one of those players that you see for a long time. You're like, God, I really hate that guy. But you hate him because he's not on your team. Now he's on your team. You're really excited for other people to hate him. Like, I can't wait to see Ndamukong Suh throw around Russell Wilson and maybe do something a little sketchy, that's going to kind of rile you guys up and, start calling us and calling them names and stuff. That kind of stuff excites me. And Marcus Peters, I mean, he does it in a funny manner to me personally. I mean, that when he threw that flag up in the stands last year when he was in Kansas City, I was dying. I mean, he wasn't on my team. I didn't have to, feel that 15-yard penalty. But we're excited about Talib, who hopefully, even though himself has those same, issues at times throughout the years. I mean, obviously, we just talked about Crabtree. He's taken two of the man's change for goodness sake. And we'll see them too. And so that's going to be fun to watch that matchup. But I'm excited about these guys to see kind of how they can kind of mature a little bit or not, or how McVay is going to let them be themselves, or old man Phillips, how are you going to, reel them in a little bit? Those are a lot of question marks that people are asking about this team. So, but I'm embracing it. I love the bad boys.
That was one of the big questions too, and we were receiving a lot of these players is, they're a lot pretty big, bold personalities, and, they've done some questionable stuff in the past, and how is Sean McVay, the youngest head coach in the NFL, going to be able to handle these big personalities? And, we got to look at the reciprocal of that and talk about Mr. Wade Phillips, who has been in the NFL for so long and is thought of highly with these guys, especially Talib, who used to be on
He has been his whole freaking career. I find it hilarious that you guys are pinning your hopes on Wade Phillips being the guy who's going to pull this whole thing together. Okay, I've been holding back my prediction because it's been all sunshine and roses for you guys for months, and I've had enough. So here's how your season's going to go. I'm just giving you a heads up so you can get into counseling early, because this is going to be a rough year for you guys. This whole thing is setting up perfect for the demise of the Los Angeles Rams, the team that is the media darling in the offseason every year, always struggles and most often misses the playoffs. History has shown us when you try to go out and buy a Super Bowl, Philadelphia Eagles, and build a super team in one quick offseason, it doesn't end well. And then you brought in some of the biggest dirtballs in the league in Suh and Talib. Then you bring in a couple guys who have been abandoned in their prime when they're super talented people in Cooks and Peters, and you bring all of these guys in, this giant knucklehead factor, and you're hoping your frat boy of a coach and Wade Teddy Bear Phillips is going to bring this all back together and control that locker room. No way in hell that happens. And on top of all of that, the whole league, which is smart, by the way, has a whole offseason to go over Sean McVay tape and actually figure things out. And when you guys struggle out of the gate and have a loss or two right out of the gate, the pressure of all those offseason expectations is going to come crumbling down like your crappy Coliseum. And the whole thing is going to go in the catfish. I predict 8-8 for the Los Angeles Rams in a second place finish in the division.
Oh my goodness.
I can't wait for your apology letter.
I think he just made his own bet right there with our record. Hey, you can't be angry around Papa Wade, man. Nobody can be mean around that guy. He's just a happy fella, and he's happy to be here. And 8-8, oh my goodness! First couple of games this season, we're going to see some real challenges when we play the Raiders on Monday Night Football Game 1. But then we got the Cardinals and then the fight for LA Chargers, and we're going to stomp them right away. So I love your prediction, Adam. 8-8. I mean, I don't know. I'd be willing to throw a little bet on that bold prediction there.
Let him breathe a second. Let him breathe. He got going. I don't think he truly meant 8-8. He got a little fired up. I get where he's coming from.
You might sell me on 9-7, but I just know how comfortable you guys are with 8-8. Like how much that is a record that the Rams seem to really strive for. Yeah. So I'm sticking to 8-8. I think
8-8, man. We're gonna have 8 wins by like week 10.
You're going to have 8 suspensions by week 10, man.
That also could
I don't know.
Be true.
I've had, as a Seahawks fan, I'm not going to lie, I've had enough of hearing about the catfish Rams this offseason. Good God.
I can't imagine, especially in the NFC West, but like James said, man, it's been a long time since we've gotten some actual street cred nationally without having to say like, oh, they've got Sam Bradford, or talking about these guys that never truly did it and kind of trying to hype a situation that never really got there, and finally being able to, collect 11 wins, host a home playoff game. I think there's some value in actually what's going on here. You talked about them getting a whole year tape on Sean McVay. I think what Sean McVay is going to be able to show this year is you can have all the tape you want right now. He's so creative offensively. If you look at some of that game film and watch some of those plays, some of that stuff you just don't see in the NFL. The guy's willing to kind of put anything out there. So I don't care if you got a year of tape on him or not. I don't think it's going to be enough. Plus, go back to Washington Redskins. They've had tape on this guy for a long time as far as the way that he's controlled an offense. I don't think it's going to make a difference whether 1 year in L.A. as the head coach compared to being an offense coordinator for a while out there in D.C. So I 8 wins. Woo, man, you've got to be one of the few people out there with 8 wins on the board for the Rams. And you know what? That's why we love talking to you guys. You just never know what's coming.
I just think the hype is a year early for you guys. I mean, because you were just talking as we started out on the podcast. You're like, 2 years ago when we started this thing, we were terrible, and then we had Jeff Fisher and got rid of him, and then like one good year with McVay, and now you guys are winning the Super Bowl. I just have a really hard time. It's not always linear. You don't always progress to awesomeness like perfectly linear. Like there's steps back, and like you guys kind of mentioned earlier the idea of like duplicating being the number one offense. That's going to be hard to do. Now, you may still be a very good offense, but doing it year in and year out, like I need to see it first. I'm sorry from the kid coach.
Well, there's linear growth and there's exponential growth because
and decline.
We've only added to this. That's true. And you guys should be able to speak to the decline. You were on 9-7 last year. And I feel a little bit jealousy coming on because you don't like all the media attention that we're getting, but maybe it's just because nobody's talking about the Seahawks this year.
Oh, they're talking about us plenty. They're all talking about how the implosion has totally happened when we finished 9-7. Like, are we saying like that was our big bad down year, 9-7?
Yeah, I think the 45 to whatever win, to really keep your playoff hopes alive is really what, imploded the Seahawk talk really as far as, losing the step on the division. I mean, when you used to be the scariest place in the NFL to play and your division rival comes in and smacks you up like that so good near the end of the season when playoff, implications are on the line, it catches the attention of the NFL as far as like, man, things are happening. And some of the big weaknesses that we talked about seemed not to be addressed. I know you talked about bringing in a coach, but he can't play on the field. I know his scheme's going to go out there, but it's going to be interesting to see how fast you talked about growth from 1 year to the next and what to expect. How fast can he get in there and change what they have been doing for a while and moving that offense not only through Russell Wilson with a rookie running back nonetheless. So a lot of question marks, and I get it, but I think really as far as, looking at the division and the way it's set up and what the Rams did, I agree with you. Getting back-to-back years as the number one offense, it would be amazing, but it's a long shot. But to think that we're going to fall, out of a certain range, I'd love to hear where you think, because, are you thinking maybe they fall out of top 10 or out of the top 5, or where do you see them going?
Well, wait a second, Bear. I want to go back. You were downplaying the impact of a coach after having Sean McVay come to the team and completely turn the Rams from a 4-win team to a playoff team, and you're downplaying the impact that a coach can have, because there weren't a whole Andrew Whitworth, that was your one big signing. Sammy Watkins, I guess, which you mentioned that he wasn't much help outside of the red zone. So
Sullivan as the center was another big key part, which also allowed to move some of the other guys around that were on the right side. We brought over Sapple to the left. He did great over there, and I get it. That's a great point. You kind of caught me on my own saying earlier. But my difference, I guess, would be is Sean McVay involvement in the whole offense versus this guy having the offensive line. And how many guys, maybe I'm just out of the loop on the offensive line genius whirlpool, but guys come in and can make such a big difference on a whole offense while just controlling the offensive line. I guess that's my comparison would be a guy that runs the whole offense versus, your offensive line. How much can he really change the whole offense?
Well, and I'm not going to point to Brian Schottenheimer either as being this offensive genius that could come in and make a huge difference either. I mean, that's kind of Pete Carroll, clearly a defensive-minded coach versus offensive-minded. I think in the offseason when we fired our offensive coordinator, Darrell Bevel, we would have liked to seen them go into more of a direction of an offensive coach who is a little bit more innovative. So it can make a difference.
Had success, maybe?
Right. Yeah. Who's had success. Yeah. So I there's a lot to see with how the Seahawks are going to go on offense. But it is more of a focus on the running game. And if you can protect Russell Wilson a little bit more, whether it's offensive line up front or actually having some sort of running game versus having none at all, that's going to make a big difference for the team.
Yeah, it just has to go from dead last to close to league average. Yeah. And we got a much better shot to win games. I mean, I guess the one thing too, Brandon and I talked about it on the podcast the other day. I think the team slogan this year is the Seattle Seahawks. We'll see.
Yeah, I could believe that.
8-8's a little bit drastic for me for a prediction for the Rams, but I
would make my bet on this then, because I'm not backing off of the Rams having a much bigger struggle fest than everybody else seems to think. I would bet that the Seahawks just place above the Rams in the divisional standings.
Ooh, okay.
Wow, okay. That excites me, because I feel like, here I was giving you guys second place not too long ago. But like I said, it was a coin toss almost to where, I could see you guys third. So I'd like it. I mean, I would not be against that one, because I honestly think the Rams win this division by 2 games. So, that's where I stand. 8-8 is, wow. I get it. That's all I got for an 8-8 prediction. But you're right. A lot of things happen really fast. You start adding pieces, you start adding pressure, you start kind of doing those other things. Can they go back and perform the same next year? I say yes. You're saying no. Only one way to find out, right? Let the boys play.
I'm looking forward to it. I really am. It's going to be an interesting season one way or the other. In some ways, for us as Seahawks fans, it's been an exciting year, just in the fact that we're now finally starting to see some changes and kind of take a little bit of a different direction and some new faces to root for and that sort of thing. So there's some fun in that as well.
I'm going to have fun watching the Rams go from seeing them play a third place schedule to seeing them play a first place schedule and actually having maybe a little bit of a target on their back versus being kind of that underdog type team.
Yeah, I guess that's the one thing I got to, be careful of is as I get talking 11, 12 wins here and get excited is, stepping back and seeing some of the teams that we have to play, and the Eagles and the Packers and the Saints and the Vikings and, the up and coming Bears, if you may. And then obviously two games against Seahawks and Niners and then that team down in Arizona. But it's a pretty challenging schedule for sure. I'll give you that. And we're going to be tested this year, but it's going to be a lot of good football to watch as well.
I don't know. I heard James had the Rams going 14-2. That doesn't sound like a challenging schedule.
Like Bear mentioned, there are a few teams I'm worried about. Of course, I want to be optimistic with my boys, but the Vikings, Kirk Cousins, the Eagles, I don't know how great they will be at the end of the season in December when we face them, but they worry me at this point, and the Saints as well. And to be honest, we really have a true test. Everybody's going to be watching the first Monday Night Football game of the season, and the Raiders. I'm not so much worried about the team as I am with John Gruden, and we talked about studying film and studying the way McVay works. Well, if anybody can break down Sean McVay and the way he produces this offense, it's going to be John Gruden. Somebody that McVay has grown up looking up to. So that's going to be a great game. It's really going to be telling how the rest of the next few weeks are going to play out for us when we face the Raiders late on Monday Night Football. But, I got to say I'm a little nervous about that game as well.
I'll jump in really quick. I think Gruden's a TV coach. He doesn't scare me too much. I think he's going to last a couple of years in the league and jump back to the booth where he's more comfortable. But it is obviously first game of the season on the road. I think there is a big challenge there. Khalil Mack and that defense and what they can do. And then, who is, Derek Carr in this new offense should be interesting. But 8-8, I'll just circle back to that with a breath of air, and it's going to be fun. Definitely, you're making it fun for us, Adam. You're definitely making it fun to kind of watch.
I'll tell you what, pick your win total and then add 1 to that, because the Seahawks are just going to have one more win. So it could be 8-8, 9-7, 10-6. I don't really care. All I know is the Seahawks are going to have one more win. Is all I'm getting at.
I see a sweep in the Seahawks this year. You guys got lucky on a Cooper Kupp drop in the end zone. The Rams now know they can dominate. That's pretty normal for him. Seattle. Yeah, the Rams know they can dominate up there in Seattle. So I think they're going to be comfortable coming back up there. But man, you guys are going to have to beat us to be ahead of us.
We've heard a lot of justification on how strong this Rams team is going to be this year, but I'd like to hear a little from Adam on the reasoning behind one extra win over the Rams. I mean, as we said, not too much exciting stuff going on in the offseason, as much braggable stuff as the Rams have going on. So what's some of your reasoning behind that?
Well, first off, the whole demise of the Seattle Seahawks, that whole narrative is absolutely hysterical to me. The idea that we played the majority of the season without Kam Chancellor, Cliff Avril, Richard Sherman. Who else, Brandon? Like, give me even more.
Bobby Wagner was hurt for that game against the Rams.
Exactly. So without all of those dudes, we still went 9-7. So
and the front office made maybe the worst decision in franchise history by signing Blair Walsh in the offseason last year to kick field goals.
Yeah, lost us 3 games. We had to fight that. Lost one game because Coach Carroll had a brain fart against the Falcons and missed the playoffs by 1 game. And this team is done. We had a quarterback that should have been the MVP of the league. We actually brought in a different voice and a different vision to turn around the offensive line. We brought in DJ Fluker, who's an amazing run blocker, and getting back to our roots and running the football. Chris Carson, who showed a ton of promise but then got injured, has very much a chance to be that big bruising back that we all hope that he can be. Also enter Rashad Penny. Now, while I don't agree with the pick, supposedly a wildly talented guy. We'll see about that. Absolutely. But Tyler Lockett back to finally full strength. He talked about not being at full strength all of last year, yet still had a very productive year. Doug Baldwin, one of the most underrated receivers in the entire league. We talked about the linebackers earlier, KJ and Bobby, 2 of the best in the league, maybe the best duo of linebackers in the whole league. You still got Earl Patrol in the middle, and you got Shaquille Griffin, who had an amazing rookie season, who's only going to be better at playing left corner, and re-signed Byron Maxwell to play the right side of the field. And while he sucks when he's on any other team, he's a hell of a corner number 2 when he's a Seahawk. Proved it again last year when he stepped in for Richard Sherman. Then you talk about the defensive line loaded with young talent. This team is not is not in a state like the 49ers have been the last 2-3 years, where they're just devoid of talent. There's a massive amount of talent still on this team. They won 9 games with a bunch of guys getting injured, and now they've had a chance to actually address those injuries and those departures and bring in fresh talent to fill those gaps. There is no possible way I can see them taking a step back.
Well, they're going to be challenged early on in the year. I kind of just quick pulled up their schedule. 3 of the first 4 games on the road, at Denver, at Chicago, home versus Dallas, at Arizona. And then week 5, you get the Rams up in Seattle. It's going to be quite a test to start the season to see if a lot of that stuff you just said will come to fruition. Because to hang in this division, I think, as you mentioned about the Rams struggling early on in the year, I think you're going to have to come out of the gate and win some ball games. And 3 out of the 4 on the road could be tough.
No. This team is traditionally a slow starter. That's what we do every single year. Stumble out of the blocks. Everybody writes off the Seahawks. And then we run back and rattle off like 8-9 wins in a row and end up winning the division and, go into the playoffs. Happens every year under Pete Carroll.
That's the division of old, my friend. This is a new division with some new young guns in it, aka Jared Goff and Jimmy G. You're gonna have to be strong all throughout the whole year to make the playoffs. You saw
could wrap Jimmy Garoppolo and Jared Goff together and take their best strengths, put them together, and I'd still take Russell Wilson over both those guys.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. Okay, so I'm starting to hear a bet come together between Bear and Adam. Now, I guess the question is, do James and I, do all 4 of us get involved in some kind of bet this year?
I think we have to. We did the one-on-one, then the one-on-one, and I think it's time to get, that way everyone's got some money in it. Because last year I was hurting as I had to watch my boy sit there and lose, and every game pull up and see how many return yards your boy had and Cooper Kupp. We thought we had a moment. They moved Tavon Austin out of the punt return, and I thought, James, we got a shot, man. Yeah. And then we put back.
It was an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah, we put back Carol Cooper. He ends up being, a Pro Bowler, but I thought he was going to get a shot there, and it never really came to fruition. But yeah, I think it's time we get all 4 involved.
All right, so Bear, what I learned out of this is you're a much more compassionate podcast co-host than Brandon is. I think he took great joy watching me try to run that 40 in the snow and fall on my face like 4 times.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed the cone drill. I mean, I don't know how many takes we had to do because I was shaking so bad from laughing watching James. He kept going, I got to do another one. I was like, yeah, I don't think I got you in frame there. We gotta run it again.
Boy, was I out of shape.
Yeah, watching him run on the beach was tons of fun. Don't get me wrong there, but throughout the season, I just don't like seeing the Seahawks be winning in any form or fashion, whether it's on the field or in a bet. So that was my struggle. But the cone drill, that was worth all the while.
Hey, well, I was out in the sun. I got some exercise. We were at the beach. We weren't too cold. I can't complain too much. It was okay. I just hated losing.
Well, I'll tell you, the first thing I did when the jersey came in the mail was find a good dry cleaner because I couldn't have any of that still left on the jersey from being at the beach. It seemed like bad.
All the sand?
Bad hawker to me.
Oh, the Rams juju?
Yeah, but a little bit of both, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you knew how many times we put the Todd Gurley jersey on top of that to rub it in and maybe try to give you guys a little luck or something. But yeah.
I think I blew my nose on it a couple times too.
You wouldn't be able to tell the difference. It's that ugly ass green color, man. Those are the worst jerseys.
I'm digging it. I like this a lot.
I know.
I can't wait.
Action green's disgusting.
It makes you stand out in the crowd. I like it. And the fact that James had to wear it out on the beach in LA, that was part of my thinking.
Stairs.
Yeah, people were like,
we got a lot of stairs.
Yeah, trying to start a fight right now. What's this guy doing? And it was like 85 degrees. He's got this non-breathable jersey on, running cone drills. People are like, what are these people doing?
And Bear's just like, one more take. Let me get it from this angle. Do it again. It was just like sweating my ass off.
All right,
Adam, so I get us going. Break it down. What do we have again here?
Okay, so just whoever's team finishes ahead in the division.
Okay.
Rams or Seahawks.
All right.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Bear gets an easy bet.
Yeah, an easy one to lose. It's going to be fun.
Well, let me tell you where I'm excited about, James, with my particular players, because On the offensive side of the ball, clearly, I'll take Russell Wilson against Jared Goff in anything, any stat, except for maybe interceptions, because I know Jared Goff will probably throw more. So I would take Russell in anything there. Doug Baldwin, clearly going to be more of a touchdown reception machine than even your new dude Brandin Cooks. So I'm excited about our guys on offense. On the defensive side of the ball, Shaquille Griffin. I know you're excited about both Aqib Talib and Marcus Peters on the team. Shaquille Griffin will finish with more interceptions than either of those two players. And, Frank Clark, our guy on that's left on the defensive line, I'm predicting him to have a pretty good year too, in terms of sack numbers. So we got a lot of different ways we can go.
Lot to chew on, and we may need to continue this conversation. But I do like where your head's at with the yards for Wilson. I had almost 4,000 last year. Jared Goff was about 3,800. So we are close with the addition of Brandin Cooks. Feeling pretty confident about, I think that's a pretty fair bet for overall yards between our quarterbacks. And when you said Griffin's going to get more interceptions than Peters, who currently leads the league right now, I don't know if I agree with you there. So I'd be willing to go down either of those roads.
Hey, can you phone a friend? I'd stay away from the quarterback battle, just out of that's a phone a friend here. I think we all get a couple lifelines. I love me some Jared Goff, but especially with how much Todd Gurley can contribute on the ground. And, who knows, with Sean McVay, may have Cooper Kupp throw a couple more passes like he did last year. That's just...
See, Bear, I like it. We're both trying to save our boys because, Brandon brought up this interception thing. I was like, dude, there's so much that goes into, how many interceptions a guy gets in a year. It's a stat that's not entirely about a player's ability. It's about opportunity and just... It's a tough one, man. I don't know.
Well, let's do the interception thing. Bear got a handy.
Wait a second.
Bear got an easy one.
Oh, it got me.
Yeah, if my co-host gets to bail me out on one, then I'm kind of leaning toward the yards thing now for the quarterbacks.
Well, you guys did have the sack one was in there too. I don't know where everyone stands on that one, but if I had a vote for James, I would probably go for I would root for him to get the interception one. But like,
I do want a Griffin jersey more than a Clark jersey though. So that's, I guess, kind of where I'm at.
I can go both ways, Adam, with the variables and, you saw it personally when Rawls got injured. You never know with the health of either player and what happens. And then we've got so many guys on the defense side of the ball collecting interceptions from what we feel like as well. So my next question, if that was to be the one, is, I guess James kind of said he'd go Peters, but it's tough, man. There's a lot of guys on that team who can suck up some interceptions. So
yeah, that's some incentive for you, Brandon. We have Talib who could kind of split the bill there with Peters. So even though I'm feeling confident about Peters now, you never know what's going to happen this season, what sort of opportunities they're going to face. So, it could be risky for me to vote on Peters on that side. So,
all right, well, you got to pick one of the guys.
I'm going with Peters.
All right.
I tried to help, dude.
Peters and Griffin?
Let's do Peters and Griffin.
Man, can we start the season like this Sunday? I miss live football, and there's nothing better when you get a couple things on the board. And when my Rams go up by 2 or 3 games in the division, it's going to be even better.
I was talking about where they finished. I didn't really care what happened early.
Fair enough.
Well, now the next thing is to come up with the terms of what happens when Adam and I both win.
Well, maybe that's something we'll put out to the listeners.
Yeah.
And you guys could do the same with your listeners, and we'll see if we can come up with some good stakes. But we know what the bet will be about.
Perfect. Everyone's involved. I love that aspect. It was tough sitting out last year thinking, man, I need to get something from Adam again. That was too easy year one.
Yeah, Bear was wearing his Todd Gurley jersey everywhere he went, just like winter alert. And I'm sitting over here sweating all the time watching Cooper Kupp drop the ball and not play on special teams. So, I think Bear is glad to be involved again this year.
Yeah, we got a couple good ones. I'm excited, guys.
All right, guys. Well, we appreciate you coming on once again. And everybody, if you want to follow along, why don't you guys give your Twitter accounts? Because, this is going to be fun once the season starts. Our Seahawks fans may want to follow and especially when the Rams get out to a slow start and you guys are down, they're probably going to want to see what you guys are saying.
Of course. Well, you can find us at Rams Podcast on Twitter, of course, on Instagram as well. And then my personal is at jkroger3, Kroeger. I retweet a lot of the Rams Podcast stuff, so you can find me if you look.
And then I'm at LA_Rambling Bear. And give us a follow. We don't mind a little troll now and then, coming at us and bringing some stuff. So always love interacting with you guys on social media. So it's going to be a fun year, and especially when there's something on the line.
Hey, also, speaking of social media, the video that we tossed up on YouTube.
Yes.
I have to say, Brandon, all the comments were from Seahawkers fans. So, a little shout out to your guys' listeners, because they all watched the video and commented, of course, about the jersey. So a little shout out to them for commenting on the YouTube video.
Nice.
I think a video thing of some kind needs to be in the mix for both of our backs, because I just really enjoyed that. Like, I mean, you guys took the production value up another notch from what we did the first year. I look forward to, not having to do that for you guys next year.
Yeah, all credit to James. I'm glad I got him on my team, because he knocked that video out and killed it. So I think that's the best part, is not only winning the jersey or whatever it may be, it's seeing the other person have to go through that and put that video together and do some sort of drill or sweat it out or wear the jersey, whatever it may be. Some public shame is always good in the opposing jersey.
Yeah, and I think I finished a whole bottle of wine to myself editing that bad boy, because that was the worst part of losing. Not buying the jersey, because you buy the jersey and that's done, but putting that together, just watching yourself in this Seahawks video trying to edit it, and I hope you guys enjoyed the soundtrack. I had to start off with some Seattle love there in the beginning.
I noticed that. Yeah, I definitely noticed the Seattle soundtrack at the beginning. Well done.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, I'm glad we got this work through, and it's going to be a fun season. And I appreciate you guys coming on, breaking down some of your enjoyment of the off season. And this will be fun to listen back to.
Oh, you bet.
Especially at the end of the season.
Oh, you bet. Yeah. Love you guys. Hate your team.
Same to you guys. Always enjoy coming on and chat with you guys anytime.
Yeah, we'll have to do this again maybe before we meet up in October as well.
Indeed.
Perfect.
Well, a big thanks to James and Bear, our Rams fans, for coming on the show, breaking down their offseason. I think it sounds like we got a bet worked out for each of us.
This is so much fun. I really took a lot of pleasure in being able to tell them how their season was going to go, since they've had so much sunshine blowing up their ass all off season. I just felt like it was time.
I could tell that's been building up and just kind of weighing on your shoulders. I feel like you must be about 10 pounds lighter. You're going to be walking around with a spring in your step now, having gotten that off your chest.
Yeah, no, I feel like a whole new person. Yeah, that I was like an oracle, a sayer of sooth, so to speak.
Yeah.
Just getting it out there so that, they knew what they were in for this year.
You have something on the line. It would be one thing to go out there and say it, but to say, I will put something on the line, whether it's making a video that where we have to do something, and we got to hear back from the listeners. What do we want to see Rams fans do when they lose their bets?
Well, I guess it's pick a drill, because I like the idea of a drill.
You want to keep the drill thing going?
I like that. Yeah, a combine drill that you would like to see James and Bear perform. Mm-hmm. And a separate one for each, I think, right?
Maybe.
Or the same drill, maybe? And they have to compete against one another at said drill?
I feel like we've taken the good drills, though.
There's all sorts of other drills out there. Absolutely. Broad jump would be hilarious.
See if you can get farther than 4 feet.
Yeah. And then, some of the passing drills would be good. Some of the blocking drills would be good.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, where you start out on your back and you got to get up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the one person directs them with their hands like an air traffic controller.
Or we could find a way to combine them, where you have the offensive line, but then you have to throw a pass.
Oh, made up drill.
We can combine these and get creative.
It's up to the listeners, man. We need your help. And then I guess so it's that in a jersey. That's the formula, I think. Let's stick to that formula.
Okay.
That'd be but I need to decide what jersey I'd like to go for. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not really a jersey guy, so
Well, maybe you could go throwback.
Yeah. I was also thinking B-Wags.
That'd be a good call.
Yeah.
he might be the best player on the team. I know the Madden ratings came out here recently. I don't think Bobby got a 99. He's better than Russ.
I don't know that he's better than Russ.
That's tough. He is.
Is he better than Earl? Those are your three, right?
Yeah, those are definitely your top three.
Okay.
Now, what you could say about B-Wags is that he could be the best in the league at his position.
You can say that about Russ.
Sure.
And you can say that about Earl. Even though Chris Sims likes to crap all over him and tell that he's lost like 5 steps and he's no good anymore.
I don't get where that comes from. He had one injured year.
Yeah.
And then he was awesome last year. Everybody acts as if he lost a step. And he prevented Todd Gurley from scoring a touchdown at the goal line. It
Watch
just
that.
Where does that come from?
Doesn't want to be here.
Well, I guess that could be part of it. Maybe the antics from the offseason are kind of clouding their judgment.
No antics. He just wants a little more money.
Well, media makes that out to more than what it actually is.
That's what's fun about this Rams-Hawks bet for me, is the media narratives for both teams have been just ramrodded down the public's throat all year. The Seahawks are terrible and it's over. And the Rams are the golden shoulder and the best.
Yeah.
Hand him the trophy now. If you want to crown him, crown him.
That reminds me, we got our crapping on the Rams song back from our producer, Jay Stevens, who sang the lyrics on it. We had a lot of members of the flock contribute. Flocktimus Prime, Keith Kedover, I think he did a majority of the lyrics. Cameron Cole came up with the idea of going with Bon Jovi's Living on a Prayer for crapping on the Rams. It was hard to find somebody who even know who Toto was, let alone putting on the Ritz. So although Flocktimus Prime did come up with some great lyrics for that song too, Bon Jovi a little more mainstream, I think. And I think we're going to put that at the end of the show this week.
Yeah, man, that's it's pretty darn funny. I've had to listen to it a couple times because I'm really bad at picking out lyrics. But well done. Very creative by you and the Flockers in Flocktimus. I'm very impressed. And Living on a Prayer is a song that's near and dear to my heart.
Right.
Because we lip synced that for the second grade talent show.
Right.
Yeah. I was the drummer.
See, so you can even get behind some 80s rock, or at least have some sentimentality to it.
That one song.
Right.
The rest of the genre, or that whole genre and decade, garbage. Hot garbage.
We hear you.
The worst kind of garbage.
We understand. Okay, we get
garbage.
Enough.
Like really bad.
Let's get.
Like if I had a time machine tomorrow, my first order of a business would be to go back in time and try to prevent all 80s music from happening. Not prevent the Holocaust, not keep the Titanic afloat, nothing like that. Like not stop the Challenger explosion. No, not stop. Yeah. Nope. It'd be to eliminate the 80s music. And visors.
Sounds like a man who makes sound choices in life.
And leaf blowers.
Well, we do have some people who do make sound choices throughout their life, and those are our new members of the flock and our current members of the flock who help make things like producing these songs happen. And we especially thank our associate producer, Dustin Mock, for keeping his donations going at getintheflock.com. We also had a one-time donation come in this week from Ronan206 for $12. Thank you, Ronan.
Yeah, thanks, bud. Proper amount, too.
Absolutely. Paul Baglio, he started up a 1212 donation through PayPal. For those of you who maybe don't want to do Patreon at getintheflock.com, we have seahawkerspodcast.com/support. We got a PayPal button there, and that's what Paul did. And Paul, welcome to the flock.
Yeah, welcome, man. Now you get to call yourself a little flocker. Feels good, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah, it does.
And a welcome to the flock to Rico Winkler in for a buck.
Thor's name was pretty strong last week, but Rico Winkler, that's pretty strong too.
And another listener from Deutschland.
Boy, they really know how to do it over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I see you, Rico. I see you.
Getintheflock.com if you want to be a member of the flock as we try and work our way up to 300 before the start of the season so we can do some post-game shows.
Oh, yeah, man. I'm almost looking forward to that.
You will be. You will be looking forward to it by the time we get started.
Well, everybody else will be looking forward to it because that's going to be a 50% drunk podcast.
Yes.
Week in, week out, for the most part.
And I've seen it.
Yeah.
Now everybody else will get to see it too.
You've seen me do a drunk podcast?
We've had discussions after games on Sundays.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we've had many discussions where I'm drunk. after games. Yes,
Right.
that's happened.
We haven't recorded it necessarily, but
no, we've known each other a long time. We've talked Seahawks for a long time. Yeah, that's been a lot of discussions like that.
Speaking of how we've known each other a long time, we got a couple of reviews this week, and one of them you remember the review where we had the listener who said it sounds like they don't even like each other?
Oh, right.
He's come back.
No way.
Yes, and revised the review. Says, wow, I wrote a premature bad review before I actually listened to this podcast, but now I really love it because not only do they actually know what they're talking about, but it's fun to listen to.
You know what, dude? I have a lot of respect for anybody that can like get on board with something or whatever, or just have a change of heart, a change of opinion when they finally realize, hey, maybe I was on the wrong side of this issue. That's very cool. Thank you very much for that review, man. No, I like this guy.
Yeah. Yeah, back around episode 178, I think, is when that came in. So I think I came up with a good rule of thumb for anybody new to the show. Mm-hmm. If you listen to the show and you don't like it, just hang with us for 30 more shows.
That's all? Just 30 more?
Just 30 more shows. And you know what? If after 30 shows, you can say, you know what? I still don't like it. I've hung in there for 30 shows and I just can't do it anymore. I'll be man enough to sit here and say you have terrible taste in podcasts, and you should probably listen to 30 more shows just to be sure.
Right. I mean, that'd only be about, 90 hours of your life?
Right.
Yeah, 60 total episodes to listen to something you don't like. It'll be great. No, but that's a really cool review. I never expected that in a million years. Thanks, man.
Last week we discussed, too, about the negative, most of the negative reviews that come in generally have to deal with you.
Yeah.
I think I finally found a way to get under some of our listeners' skin.
What?
Yeah. A review came in, says, I refuse. I just refuse. From D. Bloomy in the Hong Kong iTunes store. I refuse to give a 5th star to the greatest football podcast on the planet. Never badmouth The Godfather, Brandon, or else.
I told you, dude. I told you. That's a road you don't want to go down.
I know. And you know what, Dave? I'm not saying that Godfather is a bad movie. I was just saying that it's an overrated movie. It's rated number 1. It has to be below number 1 for me because I couldn't stay awake during the movie.
Ooh.
So, I mean, it's kind of like Under Siege 2, the Steven Seagal sequel to Under Siege. I know it's not better than Under Siege 1 because I stayed awake through the entire first movie. I couldn't make it through Under Siege 2.
I can't believe you actually went to watch Under Siege 2.
I saw it in the theater of all places.
Wow.
Yeah. So because I've never made it through The Godfather, and so many people have it ranked in their top 10 movies consistently, I think I'm big enough to say that maybe something happens in the movie that I didn't get to see when I watched it that makes it the iconic movie that it is. So it's probably a top 10 movie. But there's no way that I put it ahead of movies that I can make it through, like Goodfellas or The Departed.
Well, all I know is it's been a really cool run doing 207 episodes with you. I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed our 39 years of friendship. Well, I don't know. Let's see. It's probably closer to 34 years. Yeah.
Sure.
34 years of friendship.
Yeah. Kindergarten.
I've enjoyed it. I care about you, bud. And wherever you're going next, it's probably a better place, but it's curtains for you.
Does it feel like I'm doubling down on The Godfather?
Yes.
Nastiness? Because really, I'm not.
Bloomy coming for you. Bloomy be coming for you, man.
Yeah, I guess so.
He's going to take that 5th star that he held out on. He's going to turn it into a Chinese throwing star. He's going to put it right through your heart. Then send you swimming with the fishes.
All right. What do you think? Should we take an email here before we close this show out this week?
Yeah. Quick email. Because it was the Know Your Rivals, I did not prepare a Do Better and Better Life. So, whatever.
That's okay. That's okay.
Okay.
All right. One here from Gary Bloom says, here are some thoughts I had after listening to the talk around Earl's contract. And I'll first make some things clear. 1, I am thinking rationally, despite my head being overheated by the sun through my lucky Seahawks visor. 2,
I don't know, man. Your brain's cooked. That hobo hat's killing you.
2, I'm not siding with the billionaire owners at all. 3, I am siding, as Brandon suggested, with the I want my team to be awesome at every position philosophy and have my money to sign other awesome players at other positions with the money they save along the way.
Or maybe those cheap-ass billionaires could spend more and you could still do that.
Good.
I don't know. I'm just saying.
Number 4, I am a big believer that we need to sign ET3. He is the glue that holds the defense together. He is still in his prime, and we can't be leaky in Area 29. So sign ET3, or else the Seahawks will get my do better if they don't.
I agree. I'm just curious if Gary enjoys the one knee approach when kissing billionaire owners' asses. Like, because it puts the booty like right in front of your face. You get right down on one knee. Well, that's the only thing.
And you know what? Gary addresses this. He says the answer that Adam proposed of raising the salary cap will ultimately not lead to a solution for situations like Earl's. What will happen with a raised salary cap is that there will be overall salary inflation for everyone. And then once the new salary cap space was filled as a result, there would still be players who felt undervalued compared to their peers and would want to hold out and renegotiate. I'm all in favor of players earning as much as they can without the fans bearing the increased cost at the stadium, but a raised salary cap is just a very temporary solution.
Okay. I would disagree. So I don't entirely disagree with Gary's point there, because if you take it in that direction, yes, I think he's exactly right. My thought process, which I did not clarify at all on the last pod, would be to switch to a soft cap, similar to the NBA, where there is a cap, but you can go over the cap, but your owner's going to have to pay the luxury tax.
Yeah.
So it's something that you can do on occasion for when your team is in such a position like the Seahawks are in now, to pay somebody like Earl Thomas to continue, where you are now. But it's still prohibitive enough to where it keeps things equitable among all the teams.
Interesting. Okay.
That way the players would get more money in certain situations, and the owner would just have to pay out a little bit more.
Yeah, I'd be for that.
That's all I'm saying.
Although you wonder how much the Patriots would be abusing that.
Well, I don't know. Who's Richard, Kraft or Allen?
Yeah, I think my money's on Paul.
Yeah. By a significant margin, I think, actually.
Gary says, best preseason quarterback ever. While I love Mike Teal from my hometown Rutgers Scarlet Knights, I think Matt Hasselbeck, who was nicknamed Mr. August before his trade to Seattle, has to be the best of all time.
Yeah, that's pretty fair.
Yeah.
Gary came strong.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue against Hasselbeck.
Yeah. He could have used some hymns. At like age 12.
Hasselbeck, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Olin Michael Lee comments, wow, my dude. No one is telling you how to work in a studio. Your level of ignorance with leaf blowers is stupid level flat earth. Don't you think the people who do this every day have over decades found the best way to do this? Do better, man.
Okay. So we've topped out at leaf blowers. That's the best way to do everything?
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure there won't be any more innovations, quote unquote. And on top of that, sometimes old ways are the best, man.
Yeah. I think your innovation is a quiet leaf blower, so it doesn't wake you up in the morning.
Yeah, that would go a long ways. And for it not to look like a non-flying jetpack.
Well, here we go. The Do Better this week. We'll give it to Thomas Brown. We'll have a listener submitted Do Better this week. He says, just listen to the latest pod. My Do Better this week is for Brandan and Adam, whose single failure to mark a watershed in American sport should leave you hanging your heads in shame. Shawshank Redemption. Crap. Hall of Fame announcement. What the catfish, guys? Last weekend, your American Eagles finally won against a Tier 1 rugby nation, overcoming my beloved Scotland 30-29 in Houston. Okay, it was pretty much a second-string Scottish team, but the USA were awesome on that day. It's expected that Adam would miss this, as he probably is busy at a Leaf Blowers Anonymous meeting. However, Brandon, more is expected of you and your generally steady omnipotence. And before Adam goes off on one, not being able to appreciate rugby and the NFL is the sporting equivalent of being a flat earther. After all, some of us mere Europeans seem to be able to understand both a scrum and a nickel package. So Adam, and particularly Brandon, do better.
Oh man, I got prejudged on my rugby views.
Yeah.
I got pigeonholed. I think rugby's a hell of a sport.
Hey, we have a team in Seattle that
way cooler than soccer.
Yes.
Like way cooler.
Although
than
I
soccer.
don't know if we're supposed to be saying that while the World Cup's going on.
The world what?
It's this tournament where a lot of soccer teams around the world compete.
Play in a stadium that sounds like a beehive? Is that what they do?
I wouldn't know because I haven't watched a single minute of it this year.
Oh, hell no. I've got things to do.
I may watch the final, though. I generally will tune into the final just to see.
I'm going to be either in the mill or on the river, man. One of the two.
All right.
It's summertime, man. We only get a few months of fun outside time.
Well, moving on to Better at Life. Let's give it this week to a longtime member of the Seahawks family, Sandy Gregory, who just announced her retirement from the Seahawks front office. 42 years with the Seahawks, one of the original employees in the expansion season of 1976. And
no kidding.
Yeah. And
wow.
You've probably heard, if the name isn't immediately coming to you, the fact that she was so instrumental in getting Kenny Easley back connected with the team. She was a big part of getting him into the Ring of Honor for the Seahawks and kind of bringing him back among the members of the Seahawks family. So longtime member with the Seahawks, 42 years, retiring, and Sandy Gregory, better at life than Skip Bayless.
That's outstanding. Yeah. Good job by you, man. Coming up with that better at life. Yeah. I did not know that. That's amazing.
Just came across
42 years. 42 years. We started the podcast 6 years ago, right?
Yeah.
All right. So that would have been when I was 33. So 42 years of podcasting would put me at 75. Think we can keep this up till we're 75?
Let's do it. Let's give it a shot.
We'll see if the league's around then.
And with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks. And catfish the Rams.
Catfish the Rams. Okay, I'm recording.
Is Princess ready?
Yeah, dude.
Oh, okay.
Just takes me a little time. Bonk me.
Bonk.
Pretty lame bonk.
I don't even think you use it anymore.
It's because you don't try hard enough.
Well, make it worth my while.